Hello, we are
Hello, hello.
now live, and welcome another Thursday night, Thursday night for us, me and you, Kurt, and thanks for joining, much appreciated.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Just starting with a laugh there. I was doing one of these a couple of weeks ago, and I accidentally blocked or banned Sandeep accidentally because yeah, I'm not a very good aim with the mouse. Apparently, I blocked the wrong person. What are you going to do? So
Shoot
thanks for
from
coming
the
back. Yeah, exactly. So do you want to give a quick introduction about who you are, Kurt, and we can get going? Yeah,
sure.
cool.
So, Kurt Buehler, I am a Power BI consultant. I also maintain a blog known as Data Goblins. I'm specialized in Power BI adoption, but also report design. I love, of course, everything to do with Power BI, from data modeling to building out the reports and just engaging with the business and trying to understand what they need. And yeah, that's me.
Very cool. I have to go straight into my first, maybe obvious question. I've always been curious, where the goblins come from?
Yeah, the goblins secret. No, it's not. So I'm really big into Dungeons and Dragons. Like I'm massive into Dungeons and Dragons. Every Friday night at 6:30 CET, you know what I'm doing. I'm playing D&D.
No way.
So it's something I'm very passionate about, and it's something that I think is also really interesting if you want to, engage in a group and just leave the technology behind for a couple hours.
Yeah.
Some of my strongest friendships have been forged that way. But when I started blogging, I wanted to find a way to make sure that I could still intrinsically enjoy it. So I wanted to connect it to something that I really loved,
Yeah.
not just data, because I of course love working with data,
Of
but
course.
I wanted to integrate it with D&D somehow. And in D&D, you have all these magic items, you have all these things, and I thought, yeah, it would be interesting if there was a Dungeons and Dragons data set, and I used that for my demos and stuff. That would be fun.
Yeah.
It
Very
kind of
cool.
took off from there, and now I got way too many goblin drawings that I know what to do with. So
They're very, very cool, and it's a really effective storytelling technique as well.
yeah, so the thing I like the most about it is I like to talk about a lot of concepts that are more nuanced. So things like data literacy, these are things that are really important to me and that I'm really passionate about. But it's very hard to talk about it because it's nuanced, because it's about people. So if you're going to present something like that or try to like convey a message, you need to have images that are really striking and help bring that message forward. Especially if you portray it in a storytelling sense. So I always try to tell a story with these recurring characters, and the characters have silly names like Bonk the business goblin or whatever. And but Bonk, like he's this character, and he goes through this journey, and he's a business user. And by hearing about Bonk's frustrations and everything, you remember what he goes through as a character. And they have these little character arcs, or I try to make them have these little character arcs in the
Wow.
presentations and the blog posts, just in order to help deliver the message. So.
Very cool. I gotta say, I mean, Sandeep says here regarding your blog that one of the most prolific bloggers, and your blog is very impressive. Of course, I can only agree with that. I
Flattering.
um, I have to say, I mean, I'm not usually the biggest reader. Normally, I'm more into the video content, but it was probably the past. I can't remember what it was. Maybe the past year, maybe a bit less, that I started kind of getting more into the blog side of things, and I kind of radiated towards yours. For I think that's the thing. Is another thing as well. Because I'm quite a visual person. That might
Yeah.
be the most obvious thing a person can say who works with data visualization. I'm a visual person. Um, but I mean, the characters also kind of draw you in. They kind of really kind of bring
Yeah.
you through the story. Sandeep asks also like, who draws them? I'm curious about that as well. Is it like are you also fantastically gifted artistically as well?
I am not whatsoever.
Okay.
First of all, it's really nice to hear that. Like when I blog, when I do it, I mean, ultimately I do it because I like it.
Mm,
My biggest drive is just that it's something that is fun for me,
That's
and it's
yours.
also it keeps me anchored a little bit. Like it's
Mm,
something to look forward to every week, and something like this. Like you have a
mm,
terrible week, you can hammer out a nice post on something interesting,
that's nice.
and that's cool. So, but no, I don't draw them. I collaborate with an artist,
Mm.
and I'm very, very thankful for that collaboration because they're someone who is themselves very talented, very diligent, but they have a real knack for having this conversation with me about these very technical concepts that, by the way,
Mm.
they don't have a background in at all, and they can translate those ideas so well to these caricatures, and they never portray something like technical, like a report or some data stuff.
Yeah.
In a more, to give you an example, in the most recent drawing that they were doing for me, they're representing a complex concept as an enormous carrot, and
No
so
way. That's cool.
it's just these like silly metaphors and things, but you get it as you're reading it, and I
Mm.
feel it also makes it more accessible. So I'm very thankful for that artist, and I also I've worked with another artist in the past as well, but in the bottom of my blog I mention them. So if you ever are interested in commission work, definitely take a look at them. So I'm really happy with their work and thankful for their collaboration. So
You absolutely do mention that as well. Very cool. Yeah, it's I mean the blog post that it was quite recent. I think it was, where are we now? We're in August, right? It must be, yeah, it was July. This we need this report in Power BI. I love it.
yeah,
I gotta say, it was because, and I think it's because I probably love it because I've lived it so many times, you know.
yeah, yeah,
And this taking you through the process using using this characterization and just, I mean, you have a great writing style. I'm sorry, I'm just looking at as I'm talking as well. But just to kind of like have, I mean, I think actually the first time I ever came across any of your work was probably, it was maybe early pandemic, and I think
mm.
actually it was the first ever time I attended a user group online. Well,
Oh,
of course,
really?
because, and I think it was, maybe, was it Sweden or something, or somewhere in Sweden?
Oh, yeah, it could be from Alexander.
I can't honestly. Yeah, that rings a bell.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I felt like such an intruder. It was such a ridiculous thing because I was like, but I don't live in Sweden. Can I do this? And obviously, I was like, am I going to get booted? But obviously not. And this is where I came across this goblin, and I'd never really seen anything like this before. Like, okay, so we have characters,
yeah.
and we have Blink, and Blink's doing stuff, and yeah, it's a wonderful thing. Really cool stuff, mate.
Thank you. That's really, really nice to hear. I really appreciate it. But yeah, this post is something that's been in the pipeline for a very long time, actually.
Okay,
It's intimately connected to the data set that I've been making. So the backstory behind this post is
okay.
it's very closely connected to this fake data set, or a data set generator, even sort of, but very loosely,
Okay.
that I built based on all the Dungeons and Dragons data
Mm-hmm.
from the game. And I scraped all that data. I took a lot of that information, and using Python, I built a generator to try to apply some logic on it,
Mm-hmm.
so that there was a business. And that business is the one here, Dead, or Dumble Equipment Adventuring Deliveries Incorporated, but Dead is much easier to say. But it's this whole order to cash data set, and I wanted to use it for all my demos and stuff. And I had this idea for this blog post, but in my head, for some reason, I needed this data set to be done to do it.
Mm.
Finally, a few months ago, I just said, you know what, I need to finish this. I sat down and I just went through it, and I'm glad I did, because this is something, the
Absolutely.
whole requirement story is something that's a very interesting thing to talk about, and it's really interesting to hear other people's experiences, especially
Yeah.
how we relate to each other so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. So
I think at the very least, it's always nice to recognize or see that people have similar experiences, right? Because you only have those really, really bad days, you know,
yeah,
and you're thinking, oh my God, this is like, really, this is really what it's like. And just to see like a blog post, like when it depends, of course, on the subject, but I mean, the classic one, I mean, the I think one line, I forget what it was, that they all have a common goal, you say, which is the report already existing somewhere, for
yeah, yeah,
example. So if you lift the data from Excel, and people say, oh, just give me that, and I just want it in Power BI, and just that to that, and all the problems I can go through.
yeah,
And it's nice. I actually want to ask, but regarding the dungeon there, the D&D data set, when you were talking, and it's a great thing that you say, you enjoy your playing in Dungeons and Dragons to kind of have that offline
yeah.
time. I was actually curious. I thought there would be somewhere like an actual really cool data set for D&D, like of all the whatever strengths and whatever. I'm not really so much a
You
D&D player, but
you can, but I really wanted it to be a like a business data set. So I really wanted it to be
mm,
something that I could show clients, and I wanted it to be completely original. So I just use it as a starting point, and there's a huge list of customers and all this stuff.
mm, mm,
I want to write a blog post specifically about the data set because I learned a lot by just going through that exercise and
mm,
trying to reverse engineer like a kind of business logic, and to think about what kind of trends would there be, what kind of insights would there be, things like this.
mm,
So it's more focused on like sales and stuff like this. You can find lots of data sets that are about things like monster statistics or characters and stuff.
mm.
But I wanted to have something that was really more a kind of like order to cash data set kind of thing. So
Nice.
yeah.
Creating your own data set is really above and beyond level, I got to say. That's
It was it's not like for the faint of heart, that's for sure, because
yeah.
I fell down some pretty big rabbit holes.
Mm.
It was in the very very beginning. It was also something that I was using as an incentive to learn Python. I really wanted to go and learn Python, and you need a passion project. I forget who says it, but there's someone who says it in the community.
And Jeff
I think
Weir,
it's Jeff.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
he's completely
So
right. I think, I mean, people contact other people quite often if you're kind of new to Power BI or analytics or whatever, and they
yeah,
say, how can we get started? What can I do? And
yeah,
I think passion project is absolutely the way. I had mine is the football one, which I use in every single one of my blog posts.
yeah,
Though the issue with that, I realize every now and then, is that in the football blog, there's very little data for date values.
yeah,
So
yeah.
every now and then I switch to like weather forecast as like an API. But yeah, to have something that you care about and is something actually fun is, a necessity as far as I'm concerned as well.
Yeah, it's cool, and I think it's really cool also that recently, like with SQL BI, you can use the Contoso dataset generator. I think
That's true.
that's an
Yeah.
extremely valuable tool when it comes to mocking up. I wanted to work on a post for a while to kind of highlight that, because it's having a data set that you can kind of curate and kind of shape as your own almost,
Mm,
and
mm,
it becomes this little campaign of your own learnings and adventures, especially if you're doing something like blogging or so on, to just
mm,
learn a little bit.
yeah.
I think it's very valuable. So I think that's a particularly very valuable resource that's been made available in recent months. So
That's actually true. I looked at that and then I kind of forgot about it for a while. But you're right, that is a very nice thing.
mm,
There is the data set available within Power BI. They have this data set available, but it's quite limited, right? As far as I
yeah,
remember.
yeah, that was also one of the things I wanted to overcome, and one of the motivations to make my own is I wanted to make something that was like a chonky boy, like something something that would really like,
Mm,
if I was trying to come up with some kind of DAX solution or something, that it
mm,
would force me to try to think of a performance solution,
mm,
because it was just very big, high cardinality, very unwieldy. Also, so it could just feel a little bit realistic when you're working with data down to like the order number level or something like this.
yeah.
Um, that was one of the goals I had, is to make it this unwieldy thing so that you
Mm,
can test performance optimization stuff on it.
yeah.
So not quite there yet, but close enough.
It's a high goal you've set yourself there, mate. But as I say, very, very impressive. So quickly, a bit about yourself, though, and you, and where you're from, and where you arrived at where you are today. You say you're originally from Canada, no?
I am actually, yeah. So I'm based in Belgium. I've lived here for 10 years. I'm originally from Canada. I miss hockey, but that's a little bit about it.
Yeah.
I don't miss the very cold winters.
Okay.
But yeah, my family obviously very much.
Of course,
So,
yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, so I've lived in Belgium, based in Flanders. I like it a lot. So
Okay,
yeah, yeah,
nice. I could do with a couple of pretty cold winters, to be honest.
yeah.
Maybe after like two, we might get too much, but I would just like to experience that complete bitter
My parents really
snow.
like visitors. So if you like, around January next year, you're welcome to go visit. My dad would love to take you to see the hockey game, Edmonton Oilers.
Absolutely.
They'll never go
Absolutely.
back.
That sounds great. Just DM me the address, and I'll just show up on the doorstep. No problem, right?
You're gonna have to walk my mom's dog though.
This
So,
is fine. I've got a small. They probably walk more than my dog. My dog is just he's tiny, right?
what
So
kind
on
of dog
days
do you have?
I have a. It's like a miniature dachshund, or how you ever
Okay,
say
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And he, in some ways, he suits me perfectly because when it's really hot, he's like, nope, not walking in that. Um, so yeah, this is actually helpful. And then when it rains, you also won't go out. But other than that, it's okay. There you go. You got a fellow Canadian in the chat there, mate. Which part of
yeah.
Canada? From Edmonton.
I'm also from Edmonton Oilers. Yeah,
There you go. Oh my
yeah,
lord. Maybe
yeah.
it used to
Nice
be neighbors.
coincidence.
There you
Yeah,
go. I love that sort of thing. May I ask what led you across to Belgium? If that's okay to ask, if it's not.
yeah. I was gonna actually ask you how you ended up in Germany. So you first, actually, if you don't
That's
mind.
very fair. No, absolutely not, mate. I give you time to come with a fake answer, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Um, I wish I had. Well, so I first came to Berlin. It was in 2004. So the very end, I came across to like do some traveling. Do you know what? That's a lie. The first time I was in Berlin was before that. I'd had on like a school trip. I was studying history, and we went to one of the camps and stuff. All very
yeah.
somber affair. And we came to Berlin city center probably for all of like 3 hours, and I just loved it. And I said, I want to go back there at some point. So I found myself with a year off university because I took a gap year. And I was like, okay, let's go a little bit of traveling as you do back in the
Oops.
be here. So I just moved across and I meant to travel around Germany more. I was meant to go to Munich and I did go to different places, but I just stayed in Berlin and I never really left other than to finish university. And that was me. So I moved full time in 2006. If I'm really honest about it, which I might as well be, it would be unfair to not be totally honest. One of the decisions to remain here was because I met someone, and so
Yeah, yeah,
that is one of the main reasons. But I just love Berlin, and back then I was a European citizen, not so much anymore.
yeah. That must have been complicated.
It wasn't so much complicated, more like really, really annoying
Yeah.
because I was lucky enough that I'd already been here for so long that it was like, here is an unbefristeter Aufenthaltstitel, so my permanent residency.
Yes. Yeah, I just got that in March. I'm handing in my citizenship application actually next week, so I'm excited to finally be done, hopefully, with the administration. So it's funny
Very cool.
because in Flemish, the word for a citizen is a burger,
Yeah,
so
right.
spelled burger. And I'm telling everybody when I'm a citizen, I'm inviting anyone who wants to come for a burger party. So we'll have hamburgers and we'll celebrate me being a burger. So it'll be great. So
Be like an anti-vegan party in that regard, right?
everyone's welcome.
Of course, just the theme is what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
I'm quite far off getting my actual my German citizenship because it's so difficult actually to make any appointments at the offices. They just don't have any. So I've literally been
Oh
trying
wow.
to get one appointment since before the pandemic. All right,
Wow.
it's very very
That
tough.
really like two and a half years.
It's closer to 4 actually.
Oh my goodness.
They
Yeah.
have, I'm pretty sure someone's built a bot because what they do is every Wednesday they release the appointments at 8 o'clock in the morning, and by
Yeah.
8 o'clock in 3 seconds they're all gone.
That's insane.
Yeah,
I am
it's
not going
tough.
to complain anymore, I think. That's really insane.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, but I can. But the strange thing is, I was speaking to my wife a few months ago. We're thinking about maybe we could move to Austria, still do our jobs that we do now, but
Okay.
remote. And our suddenly I can't because I have no legal right to live to work in Austria. So
Uh,
actually, in order to leave Germany, I have to get my German citizenship. How mad is that?
oh my goodness.
Yeah,
That must be a lot of stress. I'm sorry that, yeah, I can imagine just going through my own experiences, but wow.
yeah. Just
So,
don't trust voters. All right.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh man, U.S. immigration is. I can. Yeah. Okay. So Sandeep wins because he's got U.S. immigration.
Yeah. That's
I
true.
mean, wins in that regard, not in a positive way. You understand?
The
Yeah, I
next
couldn't.
time we're all together, we just have to have a small little toast to drink the sorrows away, I think.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine. I went through U.S. Security once with a plaster cast on my arm. I was flying. I was flying to Australia, and I went via the US because it was the cheapest ticket that I could find. And I think it was at like somewhere like LA or something. And I went through the security. This was on the way back,
Yeah.
and I had a plaster cast on my arm. And I'd been at a friend's wedding, and we'd been drinking, having a good time. And I fell into a pool. I'm not sure if this is relevant, but I always think it is. And I think somehow the combination of what was ever in the pool and my plaster cast, when they literally took a sample of the cast and put it in this thing, and it started like flashing to say there was
Oh
some
wow.
like, yeah, some kind of
Like
whatever. I'm not
chemical
sure what it was.
reaction. Yeah.
Yeah. So they had to go through all my bags to check that everything was okay. And I'm like, you can go through my bags, but all you're going to find is dirty underwear. And
That's all you brought.
yeah. I'll take dirty underwear. I'll clean it when I get there.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
never know. A hotel could have a really good laundromat. So
Very true. Very
did
true.
they do anything with your cast, or they left it alone?
No, they left the. That was. I can't remember what year this was. Was it? Yeah,
Oh,
of course it was. It was
you had all the
after.
drugs in there then.
Absolutely,
So,
this was that was the grand plan, right?
yeah.
Actually, getting into Australia, they almost give me quite a big fine because I had an apple in my bag, um, and you can't take fruit and vegetables into
Ah, yeah.
Australia.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I didn't. I mean, I should have known because I actually used to like these like border security programs, and I was like, kind of like, oh, look at that idiot! He tried to take that, and he's going to get a fine. And then there's me rocking up with an apple. And the dog came and he sat next to my bag. He sat next to like my luggage. And I'm like, oh, what a nice little dog. I've got to stroke the dog. They're like, step away from the bag. I'm like, what the fuck? They look through it and they find an apple. And the only reason the apple was in there because when I left, I packed a bar of chocolate and an apple. I mean, which one am I going to eat? Obviously the chocolate. Apple remained, but they were nice and they showed leniency because
Yeah.
yeah, whatever. So that was a really long answer about my bullying. So now it's your turn, mate.
Mine's actually not too dissimilar from yours, but it's just the end part. So I met my wife. Yeah, no, I brought an apple to Australia, and that's how I ended up in Belgium. But no, so I met my wife in Sweden. I spent part of my studies in Sweden, and actually, so I don't have a background in BI or computer science. I have a background in genetics, and I was studying genetics back then. And I met my wife, and she was from Belgium, and that's what led me into Belgium. So
Nice,
so since then, been living here, and I like it a lot. So
nice. I've only been, I think, once. Yeah, we did like a road trip up that way. We kind of went to like up at the north and then through Belgium and down like Netherlands area and stuff. It's nice.
are
Do
you going
you,
to come to Data Mines?
you know what? I'm not. I've never been to a conference before ever, actually.
Really?
But I am going to Power BI Next Step.
Oh,
Um,
nice. Me too.
are you going? Ah, cool,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
I shall see that. I look
I'm going to
forward to it.
drive. I don't want to fly there.
I am also driving. There's no. It's yeah. It's not
Yeah.
happening. It's like a 5.5, 6 hour drive or something.
Oh,
Um,
it's okay.
you know,
So
I'll do the job. The kids aren't with me, so I can just take it nice and easy, you know.
yeah.
But yeah, probably Next Step is going to be my first ever conference. And you know what? I was starting to think to myself, I had this like voice in Data Mozo's going as well. He's going to see. Yeah, actually, we discussed that. Remember, he's going to go. And I was thinking, it's such a stupid thing. I was thinking to myself, what do people wear at conferences? Like, can I like just wear a hoodie? Is that going to be? Is that going to be okay?
Generally clothes. Generally clothes. So
Damn it! My plans
yeah.
are ruined.
I know some people have a tendency to wear like something that they usually wear to a conference. So something like this, but I think in general it's just normal. So
Fair enough.
yeah. So I'm just looking forward to seeing folks again and having some nice discussions. Like when I went to Data Grilling a couple of months ago, it was such a good time and so many really very stimulating conversations and ideas from other people. It's always such a privilege to listen to people's thoughts and perspectives on things that really shine a different light on so many things. There was a lot of conversations I had there that led to a lot of ideas that I try to represent in some blog posts or some stuff that I'm still working on. And it just teaches you a lot of things. So going to a conference, I think, is such a good way to learn and grow, but also to just connect in a special way so that you just enjoy your work and the people that are around it. I mean, I guess that's what community is, right? So
Absolutely. And I've kind of really just been around for kind of the the online community. So I'm looking forward to kind of more like the in-person type thing. I mean, because I really kind of became really active.
yeah,
Coincidentally, it wasn't because of pandemic. I just thought, okay, this year I want to get into more like, videos and
yeah,
content and stuff. And so in that regard, pandemic was just actually helped because I was just
yeah.
always sitting there at home and stuff. And one second, I'm going to throw up a question because Sandeep actually asked a good question. How did you get into BI from genetics? How did that
Oh,
happen?
that's an interesting question. So I also recently wrote a blog post about some like crossover between science and BI, but it's funny because genetics and like academic research, it seems so different from BI in a way,
Mm,
but in so many ways it's so similar. Of course, the technologies are different and the kinds of questions are different, but yeah, there's a lot of similarities. But how I got into it actually was funny. It was there was a guy in the gym, and at the end of my PhD, I was really ready for a different challenge. I didn't like working in a lab very much.
okay.
It wasn't really for me, I guess, and I wasn't sure where I wanted to take my career next. And in the gym, I met this individual who talked to me about consulting and things, and he was trying to convince me to get into consulting in a kind of a different area, more scientific area. He
Mm,
said, "Yeah, there's also data," and he introduced me to someone who works with like a self-service tool. So they work with Tableau actually, and then they also introduced me to someone else who works with Power BI. And just talking through them, they were explaining what they do, and I thought like, whoa. So you're telling me I can make figures, which is the best part of what I do right now, for a career? And they were like, yeah, sort of, sort of, sort of. And I thought, well, that sounds pretty cool. And going into it in the beginning, I really didn't know that much. I felt so lost and like there was so much to learn.
mm,
But that's where, getting involved with the community and everything really helped a lot, is just picking up so much knowledge from everybody about things like data modeling and architecture and
mm.
stuff like this. Yeah, and it's been a really nice journey since then. So
Very
um,
cool.
the best career decision I ever made definitely was taking the leap into BI. And one of the things I try to do now, not very successfully yet, but I'm trying to convince more people who are in like genetics or doing a PhD there to really think about BI as a career path, because it's
Mm.
so stimulating, it's so rewarding, it's so interesting, that it's just, yeah, it's worth taking a crack at. So
Nice. Really interesting. I mean, I've had a couple of mechanical engineers, never had a doctor of, what are you a doctor of? What was your PhD in?
So I did a PhD in biomedical sciences, and I studied the genetic regulation of insulin, and I used the fruit fly as a model organism. So, funny story, I was actually in a meeting once where I was working with some finance people,
Mm,
and we were discussing the change in mentality between going from a more Excel-based mentality to using Power BI. And one of them was a bit frustrated, and he said, "Yeah, I'm not like you, computer science guys. Like I haven't been taught in computers. I haven't been working with computers like
mm.
this and programming and all this." And I just said, "Guy, like 4 years ago, I was working with fruit flies, so I think we can do this. We'll do it together."
I love it. That's really cool. I'm going to throw up a question by Marco because he even wrote Q in front of it. He's done it in such a nice way that I can't not throw it up. When did you start managing data? Any language or tool? That's a good question.
Um, it's I When I started doing research, I guess would be the most semantic answer.
Hmm.
But in research, the way you're managing data is very different, because the data is produced not as a result of transactions per se, but more as a result of experiments. So
Okay.
you are both the creator as well as the manager of the data in a sense.
Hmm.
And you have to ensure that the creation of that data is done responsibly and ethically and objectively. So it would be, I guess, when I started doing research in 20, I guess it would be 2010, 2011. So,
Okay. Good.
and back then there was no specific tool I was using. So, and that the earlier tools that I was using was like for making figures, like scientific figures, like GraphPad Prism, which I don't know if anyone is aware of, but it's just a tool for making, like a no code tool for making figures and analyzing data statistically. But then also working a little bit with R and some other stuff. So
Very cool. Very interesting. Love it. My God. I just want to lead us to another one of your blog posts, which I saw a 1 second. This one more cue now. I think you've already answered it, but you can go anyway. What do you have that sign on your back? The dead sign.
this is DEAD. It stands for Double Dopes Equipment Adventuring Deliveries Incorporated, and it is the this fictional company in the Data Goblins universe that sells adventuring equipment and ships it all over the place. And
Love it.
so all of my mock, reports and stuff like this are made with this fictional company's data set. And this was actually made not by me, but this was made by Alexander, who's an incredibly talented woodsman. So I don't know what the term is, but really
Wow.
impressive. So yeah, he gave it to me after Data Minds last year, which was my first in-person conference, actually.
Oh, real
Um,
nice.
yeah.
I like it.
So yeah.
Well, that leads us perfectly back to Data Minds, which is what I was going to bring up before. You're talking at Data Minds this year, correct? Because I came across going through your blog again this post about looking for input for a future session about mental health.
Right.
This
Um,
is a very interesting topic. You
it
want to
is.
talk about that?
So this is a session that I'll be presenting this year in October at Data Minds. And the
Is it okay if I
session,
post a link?
yes, of course, yeah. Thank you.
Excellent.
Actually, that would be a great help.
Yep.
So the session is called "You Can Do This, Damn It," and I really mean that. So it's the purpose of the session is just to first acknowledge a little bit about how the last few years have been uniquely difficult for many of us. I think, if not all of us, in a lot of ways. And I think we need kind of a moment to just acknowledge that, but then also to just talk concretely about what kinds of things can we do to cope with difficulties, not just specifically with mental health, but just unhelpful thoughts, unhelpful feelings. How do we deal with that? Things that
Mm.
are burdening us, our productivity, our health, our happiness. This is something that's very important, and especially after you know these difficult years, I think it's something that's important to have a conversation about. So
Mm.
I really hesitated to submit this talk originally, but I did get some positive feedback from some people about it. So I'm hoping people find it useful. So I'm looking forward to giving it. Um,
I can well imagine. I gotta say, it's something that I've been thinking about quite a lot recently as well. Maybe this is something that I might regret saying out loud in a few days or a couple hours. I'm not sure, but pandemic was one of those times where I thought that all these extra things that were required of me, the homeschooling on top
mm,
of my job and just
I did
everything else
homeschooling. Yeah.
that everyone was going through. I had this mentality of, yeah, it's fine. I can take what it throws at me,
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
just take more. And it wasn't until the start of this year that I realized I was just almost destroyed. Just like not
Yeah.
just tired, but my mentality had changed so much. And I was very, very lucky that at that point, the company that I work for, it started saying, look, we know you're all going through difficult times, but we're gonna, if you want to speak to a psychologist, we will support that, and you can do it through the company. So I
Mhm.
started doing it, and it even after the first session, the difference was extraordinarily, just actually
Yeah.
talking to someone. And they
I'm
didn't
really glad
even
to hear that. Yeah.
yeah, they didn't necessarily have to do anything or say anything. I mean, they did, and what they said was just blew my mind.
Mhm.
But it was just simply the talking about it just changed so much, and it was impacting my relationship with my wife, which since the time is just it's got so much better because of like really taking it head on. So when I saw that you were this post, which I filled in, and when I saw you were doing the talk, I was impressed, and I'm pleased that it's
Thanks.
becoming more and more kind of I'm not sure, is it okay that if more and more okay or more and more normal to talk about these
Yeah.
things? Because I think it needs to be honest.
There's a lot of stigma behind it, especially when we live in an age when we're being incentivized to always show our best selves or our
Yeah,
ideal selves,
yeah,
and that's very difficult and unhealthy. And especially at the same time, you know, the way we discuss things online is becoming increasingly unhealthy, where we're only being exposed to things we agree with, and we're the discussions when there's disagreement are becoming increasingly difficult and
mm,
prickly, and it's becoming very hard to just disagree. So
yeah,
it's hard then to just have a conversation where you make yourself vulnerable, or you talk about a difficult subject or a sensitive subject. And actually, I really respect that you said that just now, talked about your own personal experiences, because that does
mm,
take a lot of courage, honestly. So and I think it's important to do. I agree with you very much,
mm,
and I think it's important to also talk about these things in a really kind of concrete, solution oriented way as well, where we can really say, okay, how can we address, like, how can we make this better, for example, or how can we support one another, what can be done, or
yeah.
you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I think it's, I mean, I'm speaking about purely pandemic related stuff. I mean, the other stuff such as, I mean, I'm sure this exists in every single industry, but I think you mentioned it in this link that I sent as well about imposter syndrome, which I know people talk about quite a lot.
Yeah,
But if you experience that so frequently, that can also be something that's really difficult to deal with. If you're constantly doubting yourself,
yeah,
if you're constantly saying, I can't, or I'm not good enough, or it's a struggle. This so the title of your session was this, quite quite going by the way, because, and to an extent, a very small degree, sometimes even these talks are strange to me, because I speak to so many people who are
yeah,
so good at so many different things, and it's great to learn from people. I think it's always good to look at it from a different perspective, not what I can't do, but what I can learn. These are things that I
yeah,
can do, but if I want to, I can grow here. I can, learn this sort of thing. But to frequently speak to people who are very, very good at their field and specialize in certain things, that it is sometimes thinking, oh, God damn, so far.
yeah.
Wish I could do that. Wish I could do that. You know what I mean?
It's you raise a very good and important point, and I think that's also where we need to think also about strategies on how to tackle those ways of thinking. Like I think when you join into the community, for example, it is a risk somewhat that you're kind of exposed to so many talented,
Mm,
um, um, remarkable people that have so many wonderful thoughts, but it does put a lot of pressure on you in a way.
mm.
But it's normal to feel that, like it's normal to have that reaction, like it's human, right?
Yeah, yeah, of course.
But at the same time, like, there's also ways we can kind of rationalize it and remind ourselves, first of all, like, yeah, it's okay to feel that. Second, that we can just accept that we're doing it, and then to do something about it, to, for example, using some journals or things like this. Like, one of the things I'm hoping to do at the session is to hand out these gratitude journals.
That's a
um,
really cool idea, man.
so I'm going to be bringing some gratitude journals and some habit journals to hand out on a first come first serve basis, and that's one of the things I'll talk about. Is something you can really do,
Mm,
is journaling. So it can even be something really simple. And I did this in the beginning of my career when I switched over from science. I felt all the time like there were these words that I didn't understand, and I was learning a lot, and it was really stimulating. But I was just swimming in in so much foreign material that I
mm,
constantly felt like I can't keep up, or I don't know
mm,
enough. Or so what I started doing actually is I kept a piece of paper beside my keyboard at my desk, and throughout the day I would write down anything substantial that I learned that day. And
that's
then at the
cool.
end of the day, I would have a list of things I learned.
Mm,
And then that just made me feel good, because I could just look at that list and be like, yeah, I learned those things.
mm,
And then I
mm.
stopped kind of having this pressure that I need to do more, because it was right
Mm.
there. The evidence was right there.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
That's a really good idea. Sometimes looking back at your previous work, if it works for me as well, if I look at something that I did a year ago, I'm like, my God. But like, my God, that, because I would never do that now. But also, it's a positive thing because
yeah,
I've learned so many things and new ideas or techniques or just errors. I mean,
Do you remember the first Power BI report that you made, or the
Oh yeah,
first data model that you managed? Yeah.
yeah, just very much so. I
Yeah.
not so much now, but I used to watch a lot of amateur football here in Berlin. I had a whole like project about it and stuff, and it was. I mean, I still love it because it taught me a lot about the Power Query side, but the data model I can't remember because, to be honest,
Mhm.
what I probably did was just say load, and Power BI did its thing and connected all the tables to me, and I didn't realize how horrific all that was. And it obviously had auto daytime and all that kind of stuff. And it was probably a table, three pie charts, and a bar chart, and I was like, this is awesome.
It's such a good feeling though, right? Like, and it's amazing when you see that in users as well.
Mm,
Like when someone makes their first report and they're so proud of it,
yeah,
and that's just this that energy that like that they it's so easy to make something,
mm,
that delivers that insight. That's part of the magic of these tools. It's really cool.
it is.
So
It is.
yeah,
It's awesome. I mean, it's always, I mean, you see reports that are published places. One thing that I wish didn't happen quite so much, and I'm probably speaking specifically about LinkedIn now, which is, in my opinion, generally a hellhole. Um, people people will say, "I created this report. It's my first report. What do you think?" And for a first report, it's great, but the person is asking for feedback. But all they get is, "Oh, that's fantastic. This is so cool. That's amazing."
mm,
And if no one's saying, great work, that is a really, what you did is fantastic. You should be proud of yourself. However, think about this. Maybe like try that and put that there and change this, that, and the other. Obviously, in like a, in a constructive way. I think that sometimes for me restricts progression in
yeah.
some regards. So
I
I don't
understand
know.
what you mean. Giving feedback is a skill on its own, so it's something
True.
that's hard to do. And also, when someone has that moment where they're proud of what they're made, or they're showcasing what they're made, it's also kind of like this moment of vulnerability where
Absolutely.
if the wrong feedback is given,
Yeah.
it could turn someone who is really an adopter of the tool into a detractor, like someone who really becomes combative down the road just because those initial engagements were so hostile. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah.
so and it's it's difficult to provide that good feedback because you want to enforce good practices and governance
Mm,
and things as well. But and
mm.
you see that there's a lot that they can improve, but you just kind of have to focus on a few things, but also make sure that you acknowledge what they did well and the progress that
Absolutely.
they've made.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. I think what you say makes sense. You have to not just focus on the bad or the good, but
Mm,
deliver the feedback that is useful.
yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's something that I think more because generally speaking, I like the feedback process, like both directions. I will always ask my line manager, like schedule a session for feedback. How's it going? Is there anything that you want to say? Any areas that I can improve upon? All that sort of thing. So I really think it's no matter what you do, no matter what job you work in. I'm sure there are some exceptions, but you get me. Feedback is a really important thing to have, and I think it kind of goes back a little bit to the imposter syndrome thing,
yeah,
because I used to say that I came from a non-standard, like my path to BI was non-standard. Yeah. That being said, what I have learned is that I think the non-standard is just as standard as the standard, if you know what I mean,
yeah,
because there are a huge number of people within the who I have contact with every single day who those people who used to be a chef or they would work in a
yeah,
whatever, and it's that itself, and that's just knowledge and kind of contacting people and kind of listening and seeing and understanding that it's natural to kind of feel, okay, this is like a technical job, and I should have
yeah,
gone
yeah.
to university for 5 years, primarily because there are so many ridiculous job adverts that say that they want that. um,
I know what you
so
mean. Yeah. It's nice too because each person that comes from like a different environment and a different industry, they bring with them their not only their experience but also their perspectives. And they no matter what industry you're working in, you're working with information in some capacity. Like you're making decisions, actionable decisions on information in order to do your job.
Yeah.
I would argue. So then taking that perspective, whether it's, hidden a bit beneath the surface or really more visible, and then when you apply it, once you've learned the technical skills in Power BI, can really expose some new ways of thinking, even really innovative ways of thinking that can challenge existing dogmas. And that's where innovation can happen. And I think we see that in the community quite a bit sometimes when people share some new ideas that are really like, wow, it's really cool that they thought of that. Like one of my favorite blog posts actually is from David Eldersfeld.
Okay.
I don't know how to paste it in the chat, but it's about data sonification.
1 second. I think I have to make you an admin or something.
Yeah.
If you type something, I'll click on make you admin, then you can post it in the chat.
Yeah, and so it's what he did is he played using the data. He played sounds through the Power BI report, so that a high bar was a high pitch, I believe, and a low bar was a low pitch. So when you hit the play button, it actually plays volume, so you hear the data. You know what I mean?
Huh.
So
That's pretty cool.
it's really cool, yeah. So, and it's really interesting when you think about it, and you think about, imagine like sitting down at your report and you have two sounds, one sound that tells you you're on target, one sound that tells you you're off target. You just sit down and, I don't know, Power Automate plays a little sound, you're on target. So then you go look at a different set of reports. I don't know. So, but these kind of things, it's so cool to see this, these kind of things, you know what I mean?
That's really interesting. I never came with that concept before. If you find the link, just stick it in, and so that'd be really cool to have
How
a look
do I
at.
put it in the chat?
If you go to our actual chat within YouTube, if you just type something or just set, and then I'll just kind of make you admin or whatever, and then we can just stick it there. In the meantime, I'm going to throw up this question, which is quite a long one, so it took me a second to get through it. What do you think of this definition found in MS Docs? It's quite a long one. I don't go through it anyway because it interests me. What do you think of this definition found in MS Docs? Power BI is a business analytics service that aims to provide interactive visualizations and business intelligence capabilities with interface simple enough for end users to create their own reports and dashboards. That sounds like a definition. It sounds like a definition from 2017, to be honest.
Yeah, it's hard to summarize in a single sentence, I guess, like to define Power BI, because it's so big, and that's often when I'm talking with people about Power BI, who just kind of ask in a very general sense, like, tell me about Power BI. Like one of the things I inevitably end up saying is it's so big, like it's so wide. There's so much there. So it's then difficult. And I think that's what's interesting is it says business analytics service, which is interesting because it tries to summarize that a little bit. And indeed, the interactive visualizations, but like it's hard, I think, to summarize in so concisely what is Power BI.
I would say it's wrong because it mentions dashboards and no one uses them. So
that's true. The whole dashboards versus reports thing.
Yeah. And it doesn't even mention metrics, aka goals. By the way, goals is a much better name than metrics.
Goals, yeah. It's goals. It just takes less long to say, I guess. Like not that much less long, but
metrics is confusing because for me, metrics are just a business metric. You have a business metric. This is when people say, here are the list of KPIs that I want in the report. And there's like 30 of them or whatever. It's like, okay, well, that's not a KPI. That is metrics, right? Because if you have like 30 KPIs, you have issues, right? How you measure your business. So they're all metrics. And then Power BI changed goals to metrics. I'm like, this is getting very confusing.
Have you been using goals or metrics? I'm just going to call them goals. Metrics.
Yeah, can we just for the sake of this conversation, we're gonna call them goals. Honestly, no, I haven't. I've watched videos about them. I've seen, I think I watched a Power BI tips, did a live session about them, blog post, but no, to be honest, I haven't. It's on my list.
It's they're definitely interesting. Like it's something that I've also like wanted to take a look at, but I just haven't really had time. So I also haven't been able to take a look at them. So I'm hoping in the future, and I see various people in the community like Chris or Jeff mentioned this quite a
Mm,
bit, but
yeah.
things that start walking a little bit closer towards real visual activation. So
Mm,
stimulating people to go and bridge that gap between the
mm,
visual and the action that they take as a result of the insight that they're getting from that visual. I
yeah.
think maybe goals seems to help fulfill that in some capacity, because then it helps someone really stay on top of that. But
Yeah.
yeah, so
No, that and from generally speaking, I haven't seen many people or anyone maybe say anything overtly negative about them. They seem to be widely popular, and to have the Power BI community, no one really speak out and complain about something, it's pretty impressive. You know,
yeah,
uh, we do
it's a
we,
very
we do
active
like
community.
a good whinge every now and then, all right?
I mean, it's good to be able to have a difficult discussion about something, or to be
Of
able
course,
to
yes,
disagree about it. So that kind of,
absolutely.
like we were talking about feedback, I think when it
Yeah,
comes to the product itself,
mm,
that ultimately is what makes it better. So
yeah,
so it's almost like, I would say, I don't know, maybe like a responsibility is to try to take or leverage the expertise that
mm,
exists within the community, and pump that back into the product in order to make it better. Not just
mm.
because then it makes our lives easier, but also because then it can help us make a bigger difference with whatever we're doing. So
That's a very good point. Very, very well put. Um, Also, maybe a good time to call it a day. I always say 45 minutes, and it always goes on longer because this is just how these conversations go.
it's
Um,
been really
I,
nice. So
I really enjoyed it. I used to feel bad when it went over the time, but now I don't, and it goes over the time because I'm having a nice time having a chat.
yeah,
So,
I'm having
and they
fun.
they
We
go by
could
so
keep
quickly,
going.
right? For me, it's just like you know. Um, so yeah, I was the only thing that I have left to do this evening is actually edit the video that I've been making, because with the Power BI release that came out yesterday or 2 days ago, it just completely destroyed this video. I was literally
Oh, really?
half an hour from uploading it, and then I saw a blog post, or I saw someone LinkedIn say, I was like, no, no, please don't. And it was the first time ever I'd opened Power BI and try to do something that I know a feature that should exist and I hoped it
Yeah,
exist, but also at the same time hoping that it wouldn't work. And it did. And I was like, no, 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 no. So I had to go
I'm
back and
very
complete.
curious.
It's about measure driven data labels.
Okay,
And you can kind of, to an extent, you can do that now within Power BI. You can control. I
interesting.
forget what you can control now, but obviously I'm doing with Deneb,
Yeah,
where you
yeah,
can just do like a whole lot more. So I just went back and I sorry, see the comment. I went back and I just made it more extreme. So it's perfectly fine. But I'm just finished now. Dax kills hope. Yeah, Dax kills hope. This was a reference to. Have you been watching Sandman at all?
not yet. So we're planning on starting that up this weekend a bit, I think.
Okay. Well, I think it's not much spoiler. It's basically someone's like, um, I am hope. What kills hope? This is one of the lines, and so mine was like, I am
Dex kills
Dax.
hope.
Yeah, Dax kills hope. There are those moments. I'm not sure if Marco is still kicking around, but he'll probably disagree. To be honest, that would be the thing. That I am Dax, I am Marco, or I am SQLBI, and there you go. They win again. But yeah, that's about it. So it's very good. I've never read any of the comic books at all, but it's very good. I'm very much enjoying it. So when you
I've heard
get
good
around to
things
watching,
about it, so I have to finish Better Call Saul as well. So that's still on my to do. So
yeah, I watched the final two episodes, but I'm going to rewatch them because I was kind of distracted doing something else, and I didn't really. I love Vertical Soul, but I didn't really enjoy them so much. The final two, which I blame myself for that, for the distraction, because I was like doing a bit of work here, a bit of Better Call Saul there, so I'm going to go back and hopefully prove myself wrong on that one.
yeah, we'll see. I'll let you know what I think.
Let me know. Feedback, mate. Always good. Anyway, again, mate, thank you so much for joining. It was been a great chat. I think some nice and also very important topics that we've discussed today. So very cool stuff.
Thank you. Thank you all in the chat also for your comments. So it's always interesting to have that. So
Absolutely, I completely agree. And that kind of keeps the conversation flow going, and nice random questions to take us in different directions, which is always good fun.
Yeah.
So everyone in the chat, I shall think I'll be back next Thursday. I'm not sure yet. Maybe I'll take a 1 week break or a 2 week break at some point. But if or not, I shall let you know. But thank you very much for joining, Kurt. Thanks for you, and I shall see you all at some point.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Don't you wanna have fun?